Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here today at Bear Arms in Scottsdale, Arizona, taking a look at some of the cool guns in their reference library, like this clone of a Danish Gewehr 66 sniper rifle. Now, that's a G3. That's pretty clearly a G3 variant. But at the time that this was adopted, Denmark's standard service rifle was the M1 Garand under the designation Gewehr M50. And I actually have a full video on these guys. They bought some from the US. They actually bought some newly made in Italy by Breda. This is, in fact, a Breda manufacturer example. Pretty cool, neat history here. And in addition to the M1, Denmark also adopted the M1D as their sniper rifle. So these are all in 30-06. It's 1950. Denmark would actually go on to be the last NATO user of the M1 Garand in standard service. They would keep these into the 1970s. However, in 1966, the Danish Home Guard decided that it wanted a better sniper rifle than that M1D, and it's hard to blame them. The M1D is cool, it's collectible, it's got some historical interest today, but it's not a great rifle as far as sniper rifles go. It's got an offset scope to the side, the clip loading is kind of weird with it, the scope's not particularly high magnification, and the Danish Home Guard sees the G3 and they're like, that looks pretty sweet, why don't we try those? And so in 1966, they buy 3,500 G3s specifically configured for the Danish Home Guard with scopes to replace the M1D. Let's take a closer look. Fundamentally, the M66 is a G3. Now, specifically, it's a G3A5, which is the designation HK gave to the fixed stock improved pattern here with the silent bolt closure device, which we'll look at in just a moment. The Home Guard did get specific selector markings, so instead of the German SEF, they have SEA. Safe and semi using S and E actually works in Danish, as it does in German. A is a different word, so SEA selector. We have HTK, which stands in Danish for Army Material Command. That was an acronym that was used until 1968, so they phased that out just after they bought these rifles. And we have our serial number here. Then on the opposite side, these were marked 7.62 millimeter GM Gewehr model M66, model 66, with a date of 12/66. Again, this is a clone receiver, so the legal markings are elsewhere on it, and these are duplications of the original Danish markings. So this is what you would expect to see on a proper Danish one. That silent bolt closure device is not particularly complicated, not as complicated as it sounds. It is just this set of like thumbprint serrations on the bolt carrier. The idea being, if it's not quite all the way in battery, you can use this to push it into battery without having to rack the action. Now, this was first used on the Norwegian contracts for G3s, and the Danes decided that they wanted them on the M66s. So they got added to these rifles. The rifles were equipped with standard claw mounts and Hensoldt 4x24 power scopes. While the rifle is a clone, this scope is original, surplused from Danish military inventory. So we have that HTK, Army Material Command again, and a serial number. Again, since the rifle is a clone, the rifle was numbered to match the scope. We have focus adjustment right there, parallax adjustment on the scope. And then we have windage adjustment over here and a BDC cam on the top. So that's 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, and 600 meter settings. You can see we have the HTK mount on the claw mount as well. And the claw mounts were numbered. Originally, the scope, the mount, and the rifle would have the same number, but the scope included these protective rubber caps that just flip down in place over the front and rear lenses. And the one other unique part to the M66 is this buttstock extension, because the G3 is typically a long length of pull rifle for anyone, but when they put these scopes on, the spacing is such that in order to get proper eye relief, they decided to put stock extensions on them. So green to match the green furniture, and that was in place on all the M66s. Beyond that, this is simply a standard HK G3A3 or G3A5 pattern rifle. The scope reticle there is basically just a German post with some windage stadia See, if I adjust the BDC, you will actually see the reticle move inside the scope. So there we go, we'll bring that back up to 100. And then remarkably, there is actually a tunnel in the scope mount, in that claw mount, so that you can actually see the iron sights through the claw mount. It's a very restrictive field of view in there, but it does work. So you can use the irons under the scope if you want to. In service with the Danish Home Guard, these were issued 2 rifles per company as designated marksman's rifles, and they were actually to be kept at home by the guardsmen who were issued them. We're used to hearing that about Swiss reservist soldiers. Well, the same thing was true with these particular rifles. So ammunition used with them was just standard M80 ball type ammunition. They didn't have a special precision cartridge to use with them. And Denmark would end up adopting the G3 for standard service use 7 years after, 9 years after these come into service. So we'll cover the standard Danish G3 in a separate video, but the G3 in standard service would actually come after these were adopted, and then it would leave service, be replaced by AR pattern rifles, and the M66 would continue on as the standard marksman's or sniper's rifle until the early 2000s. They were finally phased out in the early 2000s. They weren't specifically replaced by anything, but just a couple of years later, in 2006, Denmark decided to create an actual formal sniper corps. Not really the designated marksman integrated into the squad, but more of the sniper spotter pair go crawling off into the wastes for 4 days to make one shot at a high value target, that sort of thing. And they chose to equip those guys with TRG-42 rifles in 338 Lapua Magnum. So that's what effectively replaced the M66 here in Danish sniper service. So, big thanks to Bear Arms for giving me access to this awesome clone to take a look at. And the only reason that we have the perfectly accurate Danish markings on this receiver is thanks to a company called Kilo Guns here in Phoenix, Arizona, that does that sort of clone copying work on G3s, their own custom engraving. So very cool that they offer that service. It's something that it's interesting. We see it with like DSA with FALs, making historically accurate replica receivers, but it seems very hard to find people doing that with G3s, and Kilo Guns does it. So they did a really cool job on this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.